going to give you a little bit of follow-up after today. As you can tell, I'm back in my place that I've decided to stay at for right now. And the live video from today's advocacy is currently being uploaded. And what I had not known up until now was how big live streams can be when you're trying to upload them to YouTube when they're done. So while that's going on, I thought I would give you this brief Mike's drops apart from the Middlebury Entitlement School saga because it's adjacent to it. Now, the reason why I did this in this capacity, as I look at the sun really blinding you guys and decided I'm not really going to like that, was so that I could actually talk to you guys about what happened. And just, some people are like, how'd it go? It went great. It went absolutely fantastic. Half a dozen to a dozen kids showed up, exactly about what I thought would, and all the others drove by and honked and were waving and were saying thank you, and some even stopped to talk to us and share their own stories, their own testimonies of Middlebury Community Schools corruption. And I actually left, having attended that school board meeting, with more stories than I had before I went. And some of you guys are asking, how did you manage to speak at a school board meeting where they banned you from the entire campus and would arrest you on site if you trespassed? Good question. It's called being intelligent. And it's called critical thinking and analyzing what you think those who stand against you may or may not do out of the character that they've displayed up to this point. This would be what I would want every student in the world to learn how to do, to process that stuff on their own. But for me, they tried everything in their power to block my voice again. And they tried even so to enlist the name of the establishment next to them, Das Joel Essenhaus, which for those of us that don't speak German is, I call it the Essenhaus. And that's where we were going to meet. And we were going to just be along the sidewalk facing the administration building. And we'd met at 4 o'clock and we're getting ready to do so when a gentleman by the name of Joel, who works at the Essenhaus, came over on his very expensive hopper. I don't know what those are, ATVs or some kind. And decided to tell me at that point that the advocacy that I was doing at that spot was going to not go well for the Essenhaus community and the flea market that they're trying to do. So I asked Joel politely, Joel, where would you like me to go and stand so that I can do this without harming any of your industry? And Joel didn't have an answer. He didn't even think really that hard on where I should go to do it. He seemed a little bit more interested in me stopping it altogether, which for me, when you think about things critically and analytically, you think if he was really interested in his business, then what he would probably try to do is make it so that I don't disrupt his business more than don't do what it is that I'm going to do. But he seemed singularly focused. So I engaged with Joel and I said, Joel, would you like us to leave? Are you telling me to leave? And Joel, for the next 10 minutes, could not answer a simple yes or no question, which confirms to me without any shadow of a doubt he is just as corrupt and politically bought as everybody else in Middlebury Entitlement Schools. So congratulations, Joel, you've made the list. It also really, really, really kind of hurt my feelings when I tried to talk to you about why we're there, and you were insistent that the sales that you could get at the flea market for the Essenhaus was more important than the advocacy for the children and the parents of the community that the Essenhaus serves. Now, I don't think Joel sees it that way because that's going to make Joel look bad. And for those that we know that are entitled in Middlebury, they don't like to look bad. They like to twist their own versions of the story to make it so that they're not the bad guys. Well, good news. I was the painful result of that for over 8 years, so I know what to look for. Joel, this part of this message is for you. Shame on you for what you did today. You had every right to come and ask us to disperse, even though we weren't even talking yet. But you did so in a snotty, uprooted, entitled, I'm better than you way, which ironically was called out by one of the students that were there next to me when they said that the Essenhaus is just as corrupt as the school system. And I stopped my advocacy because a child was advocating, a former graduate at this point, and I said, by all means, share your truth. I'd rather hear that. Joel didn't really want to hear her truth. Joel was more focused on me, which lets you know exactly why Joel was there. Now, did it stop me? No, they tried. Here's the good thing I know about Middlebury. They're predictable, okay? They see a threat and they think that they're so powerful they can squash it without having to do much effort. Well, that may have been it used to be when you had all the fear tactics and fear-mongering working on me, but now that I'm protected by the First Amendment and have a voice, now you're not that scary. Yeah, real small, actually, in the grand scheme of things, real small. Tiny even, like almost not worth mentioning. That's how much corrupt power that you wield. And I'm going to continue to step all over it because you're continuing to use it to step all over children. And Joel, last thing I'll say about Joel is he was beginning to argue with a former graduate on the corruption of his own business, or with the one he works for. I stopped him and I said, Joel, if you want me to leave, tell me you want me to leave. And he said, well, I said that it was Joel, would you like me to leave your establishment? Yes or no? And for some reason, Joel didn't understand binary questioning. He felt that the yes or no wasn't what he wanted to say. He wanted to say more. So at that point, when he stopped acting like an adult and started acting like a child, because all what he wanted to say was more important than an adult conversation, I made the decision for him. And we left. And I gathered everybody up and I said, hey, Essenhaus doesn't want us here. Let's go. And then I walked to a place that was owned by the county and set up shop there, and then continued my advocacy for the next hour. So, Joel, at the Essenhaus, here's what you managed to accomplish today. You've alienated part of your community. You have shown yourself to be entitled because you don't listen to other people's opinions as equal as your own. You really didn't care a lot about the kids of Middlebury Community School at all in any part of your mannerisms or conversation. And feel free to ask the other 3 individuals that were there. They'll give you their own versions of the truth. And if they conflict with mine, great. And if they support mine, well, Joel, that really doesn't look too good for you, does it, buddy? So, to Joel at the Essenhaus, shame on you. You could have been a lot nicer. You could have been a little more understanding. And you chose to act entitled. And I was done talking with you. That's what's going to happen to any single person who feels that they can come up to me at this point and be superior to me. You're not. You're also not beneath me, but you'll never be above me. There's only one person above me, and it's not human. Not anymore. Was. Good news. That's not what this is about. This is about you treating everybody as a human being. So let's take a look back on some of the other stuff that happened. Well, I arrived at the house of a family member that was supporting me at the time that also lived off of that county road. They provided water. They provided shelter from the sun. And they provided a safe place for half a dozen to a dozen people to congregate and advocate without causing much of a disruption or much of any type of public disturbance whatsoever. Everything went so well that it leads me to think one of 2 things. Either if I'm supposed to fail, it'll happen when I start doing things for me instead of for the kids. But as I continue to be victorious in advocacy for people and they can't stop me, I'm taking that as encouragement to keep going. And I won't be stopping anytime soon. If there's anything that I could give you with this Mike's drops today while I was live at the school board meeting, when the video gets posted, and I'm thinking there's going to be 2 videos, maybe 3. A couple of the kids also took video of me while I was there, which I told them was completely fine. Some of them took my phone in order to video me while I was doing it, which I said is completely fine. And then there's also going to be the video that usually comes from Pam Kaiser, who records how the school board meetings go. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of something interesting now that we're done with Joel Essenhaus. Middlebury Community Schools' corruption was on full display today, similarly to how they screwed people out of watching a live stream during graduation. How did they do that, you think? Well, every single school board meeting that I have been to, um, there's usually an order. And, bullet points 1, 2, and 3 are usually what take the beginning of the meeting. And that goes for as long as it needs to. And then it switches to expressions from patrons, which is the most terrifying part of any of that school board meeting. Now, normally that happens towards the middle. Well, guess what Middlebury Community Schools decided to do today? They moved their expressions from patron sections first. After they heard my plan that I was going to advocate for them while they were talking and then be silent with those that were actually there at the board meeting talking and then resume my advocacy, the school board decided to move expressions from patrons all the way to the beginning. Why? Why do something so out of character? You guys are pretty orderly. You guys like your control, believe me, I know. So why would you intentionally move your expressions from patrons to the front when, you know what? I'll just ask why. I'll let you guys make your own decisions on why. I bet it's pretty similar to why the live stream didn't work at graduation. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. However, during the school board meeting, it was over by about 4:25, 4:26. Usually it goes until maybe 5 o'clock. So it was over really, really quick. And the expressions from patrons took up the first 8 minutes of that. So it's like, man, they really wanted to get out of there in a hurry. And I don't know why they would, do you? Maybe if you don't want to be held accountable, you try to peel out as soon as you possibly can. The students that were there with me, we counted how many cars left the administration building going to the left and how many went going to the right. And it was no more of an observance than just to see who would be willing to drive past us as we waved at them and said, thank you. That's it. Or who wanted to go the back way and avoid everything like the plague. Unfortunately, I can report that most of the people decided to avoid. And all of the Middlebury School Board members, yeah, you guys weren't well represented on the non-avoidance ones. But to credit to the ones that I did wave at and you actually acknowledged me as human, good for you. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. Maybe we can continue that going. You can start treating all of your students like humans. I know, shocker. It can be a little different. It's going to take some growth, but hey, that's what school's all about, right? Right. So there's a question I have for you, Middlebury Community Schools. Why did you move your expressions patrons to the front on this school board meeting on this date in history? Why? Do you have an answer? Will you answer? Will you answer publicly? Or will you not answer at all and try to keep it all swept under a rug? So be like, oh, no, you know what he's talking about, as long as nobody looks, yada, yada. You know what I was told today by a parent? I was told today by a parent who was commenting during my live stream that it's cowardice on display when the truth shows up to your school board meeting and you've done everything in your power to prevent it from getting in the door and it's still there outside and you can't even go say hi. That's a huge level of fear. Listen to me, marginalized people of Middlebury Community Schools. They're afraid of you. It's not the other way around. They're afraid of their image getting tarnished, which to them means more than most of their children's lives, apparently, or else we would probably had a much better response after what happened with John Homan. Mic truth, mic drop, deal with it if you want. So as long as Middlebury Entitlement Schools runs the show, your children are literally every single day at risk of going to school with a staff member that's potentially suicidal because the staff are not supported by Middlebury Community Schools administration in order to get the self-care and help that they need. In fact, if you read John Homan's suicide note, it's the exact opposite. Bullied, made to feel worthless, made to feel like he couldn't do his job. All of the degradation stuff that was thrown at me while I was at the high school for better part of 8 years, and John couldn't even handle it more than. Yeah. And I mentioned John a lot, and I want you guys to. I'm heartbroken about John, like 100%. As much as I'm worried about the children and other staff members currently working at Middlebury Community Schools that could potentially have guns in their throats in parking lots, John's story is what brought me out of my trauma recovery to stand on my own truth in April. He wanted to send a message that the corruption was real. And whether you agree with how he did it or not, that's not on debate. The fact is, he made a statement, and it is worth looking into. It's the whole reason I went there. Thank you, Maddie, for saying that. The school blamed him in their only statement. Like, you have a man who had some, some emotional issues, some and professional issues for sure, but I name any one of the school members right now that doesn't. And he was so unsupported that he felt the only way that he could get support out to his kids and the rest of the community was to kill himself. Middlebury, deal with your corruption. Quit avoiding it. Or what's next? You already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand and do everything legally, ethically, and shout the truth at the top of my lungs for as long as I can. So you don't have to be afraid of me. You already know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to outsmart you on how I do it, like I did today, like I did at graduation. And I will continue to do. Because here's the thing that nobody knows. And I'll go ahead and drop this now. I don't mind dropping it now. I have a man on the inside. And it could be a man. It could be a woman. It could be a child. It could be, well, it's not a child. It could be a student. And the information that I get from the inside of Middlebury Community Schools is what fuels a lot of the mic drops. And because I have someone on the inside that has no problem with sharing the truth, especially to me, I don't have any problem saying it for him. I was blessed with a megaphone. I'm completely fine to use it. Always for children. Always for children's safety. Always for the staff members and the staff members' safety that work with those children. And even the parents that care for those children. All of them. I'm not going to stop. And you can't stop the rest of them now too, because now I showed them how to do it. Any single one of your students right now has significantly more power than I do when it comes to social media. And if they want to spread the truth, all they have to do is sign up for a free YouTube account and start sharing their truth. And guess what? If they start sharing their truth in that way, or whatever way is true to them, watch how loudly I support them. You won't have to watch. You'll hear it. You don't even have to be near me. You'll hear it. Ask people at graduation. So now I'm going to look at Middlebury and I'm going to say something a little different. Okay? Because I care. The extent to which you are trying to silence me and everyone else in the community that has the same issue is shameful for how much the school needs you to actually be looking into this stuff for the safety of the children. I said it loudly at the school board while I was there, and I'll say it again here. You failed this city completely. And you're still doing it because you're not wanting to be held accountable. You're not answering for the parts that you played in it. You're hiding. What else does corruption look like? And here's the thing, guys, I don't watch the news. I think the news is extremely divisive. And I like hearing information from the source directly. If it all in my power, I will go to whoever stands for something and I'll try to meet them and talk with them to the best of my ability. I don't do divisive. The only reason things are divisive right now is because you divided your community into the have-nots and have-don'ts. The Middlebury cookie cutters and the Middlebury cookie nots. Those whose dad is this and whose mom is that and who goes to lunch on the school board with such and such and such and such and pat each other on the back for decades. And those that aren't, that maybe have moved in from a different state or a different town or a different area. I've lost count of how many children have told me you're either Middlebury or you're not. If you're not, you get bullied. What's your response to that? The no bullying policy. The inside man or person is our source. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of what is going on the inside in response to my advocacy so that I can plan accordingly around their stupidity. And right now, I'm pretty sure Dr. Jason Snyder or someone called up Joel Essenhaus and said, "Hey, bro, we on for bowling on Sunday? Oh, by the way, you're going to have a dissenter on your property. You may want to get rid of him before it gets too out of hand." "Oh, sure, no problem there, Bob. I'll go ahead and get that done right there, sir." Man, dude. I don't know what politics looks like because I'm not a politician. I don't know what corruption really looks like in my own life until it happens to me because I don't do it. I'm getting reported on that I'm a danger to the community of Middlebury, and yet you won't answer why. So I'll make this declaration. Today, anybody who needed a voice was shown how to do it. And over the last month, I have shown you how to do it legally, ethically, analytically to come up with your own truth. Not mine, not Middlebury's, yours. If you need a reminder on how to advocate for something legally and ethically without trying to accomplish anything other than the advocacy, period, it won't work. But it worked today. And people were heard, and children were heard. And I stood outside asking the school board building, please, would anybody want to come over and have a conversation? Would anybody just want to come and talk? Like, I would come to you to have a face-to-face, but you made it illegal for me to do so, which I still don't really understand why, and you haven't told anybody why. Did anybody want to talk? No, nobody wanted to talk. It's what happens when you're afraid of engaging in the truth. And it's what happens when you're afraid when someone's got access to the internet. They'll go and tell their truth all they want in their little closed doors and their executive sessions. That's the other thing I'm going to say about this. And I wanted to get this out a longer time ago, before now. Do you know that Middlebury Community Schools School Board is acting in a corrupt manner every single time they have a school board meeting? The executive sessions where the public are not allowed, they're doing things and deciding things that illegally they're supposed to be doing in the public eye. Ask me, can I prove this? Ask me why I can't prove this. Because all the money that should be going into supporting the marginalized children goes into their lawyer and their defense to make themselves look good. Maybe that's why your graduation percentage dropped 10% after I left. There's a lot of questions that you guys just don't want to answer, so people are left to come up with their own truth. You could set the record straight if you'd ever, stop being a coward and go out and have an adult conversation. That seems to be a little bit too much for elected officials, though. I'm beginning to notice that. Oh, and what I loved hearing was, Malahan, if there was such an outcry, you would have more people around you. Like, you only have a handful. Like, what are you actually doing? Oh, I love that question. Man, I love that question. Do you know that Middlebury Community Schools has made it almost impossible for your parents and the children to show up to the board meetings? They moved it to 4 o'clock. Last I checked, a lot of people I know work until about 5. And even if they do get off at 4, there's enough family stuff that they have to do with after-school practices and getting their families around that no one has the time to show up at your school board meeting where you encourage public participation. A wise freshman once said, I call cap. And until y'all learn what that means, I'm not going to explain it. You can be a jovial profession yourself if you learn. They make it so that all of the stuff that the public would hear and have an outcry about, they do behind closed doors in their executive sessions, so that the only thing that's really on display during the public meetings are, let's congratulate and pat ourselves on the back. That comes from my inside man. That comes from my source on the inside. That's for you guys to take with what you want and determine whether or not it's true. But I'll encourage you this. If you're even questioning whether or not it could be, find a school board member. Look at them in the eye. Ask them the question. And then don't let them look away. And if they try to assert their power over you, or try to change the topic, or try to make you feel less than human because you're asking that question, click record. I did. And send it out. It's the only way the truth's ever going to get out. And if you never feel comfortable sharing your truth, record your truth, write it down, send it to me. I shared 3 or 4 today. I would have shared more, but they cut the school board meeting in half. They cut the amount of time, and I still, for the life of me, can't understand why. Y'all are not that stupid. The people that watch these things are intelligent people that know what's going on. And you either have the intelligent people that are just becoming aware of how bad the corruption is, and you got the intelligent people that are trying to cover it up. So when the mic drop from today does get loaded into YouTube, watch it. Watch it if you want. Say whatever you'd like. Hopefully today, if I accomplished anything, it was that those 3 or 4 stories were heard loudly and without reservation. And in doing so in a way that called attention to the harm that it caused, the way they were treated, which is what you're supposed to do when you traumatize someone. You're supposed to take a look at what you did to cause them trauma and help. Or you cancel people and try to make sure that they don't exist. Doesn't look that good. So as we're getting to the 25.5-minute mark, I will conclude by saying this. To all of you that showed up today to support me, you were my heroes. Every single one. Pam Kaiser, keep doing what you're doing. I support you 100%, even if it doesn't look the same way that I do things. You're advocating for children in your own way. You have my undying support. Anyone who wants to show up and advocate for those that are marginalized, I don't care in which way that you do it. I will support you as long as it's done peacefully. The one thing that Middlebury is waiting for something to happen is for a riot to occur or destruction of property or all the stuff that's going to be like, oh man, he was just angry and aggressive. That's why they've been so silent. They don't have a response for someone who's doing this legally and the right way. Ask them. See what happens. That's what I encourage you to do. Take your truth, go out, fight for it. And if you don't, send it to me. I'll fight for it for you. I'll record every mic drop from here until the end of time, sharing your stories over mine. And that's what I'm going to try to encourage. Going forward, I'm going to try to do these live like this so that people are encouraged to come and ask questions while it was going on. I'm not the best at it yet. The technology is still something that I'm getting familiar with, but I think I'm doing a decent enough job to get the point across, even if it doesn't look as pretty as it probably could. That's okay for me for now. I can refine and make things better in my online advocacy journey. But your support means everything to me. I was a man standing on my own truth, going to advocate for John Homan and what happened to him. That was me in April. Now, 2 months later, I have over a 200 strong following on a YouTube channel I created on my birthday for people that are crying out, over 10,000 hours of video watching. That happened to me too. Middlebury, how long are you going to try to avoid accountability? How many more times do I need to show up and advocate loudly so that you guys will actually do something about it? You haven't answered a question yet. You stay so silent, it's like you're accepting guilt. I don't know what else to do. So I'm going to keep doing what I do. And I'm going to keep sharing the stories of those that you don't want to hear. And you can't stop me. Good luck. You've tried. Doesn't stick. And you really need to stop trying because you're not going to outthink me on this one. I don't have anything else that's important to me right now. You do. You're distracted. You have other possibilities. You have other responsibilities and things that you have to do. I have one sole purpose. And until you man up and actually start doing it a little bit more intelligently and maturely, you're not really worth my time. So I'll be talking at you until you decide to talk with me. And if you don't like that, well, this is the mic drop. You don't have to watch if you don't want to. I love you guys. You're everything to me. We out.